The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and despair. A sterile cage where hope flickered like a dying bulb. Marcus Jackson, 32, lay propped against thin pillows, his dark skin glistening with sweat, his breath shallow but stubborn. Beside him, Ethan Caldwell, his husband of 3 years, gripped his hand, his knuckles white, his hazel eyes burning with a mix of fear and defiance. It started with a cough, innocent, fleeting. Then came the fever, the weight loss, the diagnosis that slammed into their lives like a freight train: lymphoma. Marcus, a high school art teacher who painted murals for community centers, was now a patient, his vibrant world reduced to 4 drips and endless tests. Ethan, a mechanic with calloused hands and a heart too big for his small frame, refused to let go. They were fighters, always had been, ever since they met at a pride rally in Atlanta. Their love forged in shared battles against a world that didn't always understand. But the real blow came not from the cancer, but from the letter. Claim denied. Their insurance company, Pinnacle Health, had deemed Marcus's treatment experimental, refusing to cover the $200,000 immunotherapy that could save his life. Ethan read the letter again, his hands trembling, the words blurring. Experimental. He whispered. They're calling his life experimental. They sat in silence, the weight of betrayal crushing them. Pinnacle Health, the company they'd paid into for years, had abandoned them when it mattered most. Marcus squeezed Ethan's hand, his voice weak but steady. We'll figure it out, babe. We always do. But how? They weren't rich. Their savings were modest, scraped together from Ethan's overtime shifts and Marcus's side gigs selling portraits. The hospital bills were already piling up, a mountain of debt threatening to bury them. Ethan's mind raced: second jobs, loans, crowdfunding, but every option felt like a drop in an endless ocean. He looked at Marcus, whose tired smile held a spark of hope, and made a vow he'd fight for him, no matter the cost. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He sat at their kitchen table in their cramped Atlanta apartment, the glow of his laptop casting shadows. He scoured forums, legal sites, anything that could help. A name kept popping up: Sarah Nguyen, a lawyer known for taking on insurance giants. Her website promised justice for the underdog, and Ethan felt a flicker of hope. He typed a desperate email, his fingers shaking. My husband is dying, and our insurance won't pay. Please help us. By morning, Sarah replied, meet me tomorrow. We'll fight this together. Ethan stared at the screen, his heart pounding. This was their first step into a battle bigger than themselves. Sarah Nguyen's office was a cluttered sanctuary of legal pads and coffee mugs, tucked in a strip mall outside Atlanta. At 45, she was a force, sharp-eyed, petite, with a voice that could cut through steel. She'd spent 2 decades battling corporations, her Vietnamese immigrant parents' resilience fueling her fire. When Ethan and Marcus walked in, she saw not just clients but a cause. Pinnacle Health has a pattern, Sarah said, sliding a stack of files across her desk. They deny claims to same-sex couples at a rate 30% higher than others. It's not random, it's systemic. Ethan's jaw tightened. Marcus, still weak from chemo, leaned forward, his eyes fierce. They're targeting us because we're gay? Sarah nodded. They hide behind policy exclusions. But the data doesn't lie. You're not alone. She explained how Pinnacle used loopholes, labeling cutting-edge treatments as experimental to avoid payouts, especially for marginalized groups. Marcus's immunotherapy, proven effective in trials, was their latest victim. Ethan's anger boiled. So, what do we do? Sarah leaned back, her gaze steady. We sue. Not just for you, but for everyone they've screwed over. A class action lawsuit. It's risky, but it could force them to change your pay. Marcus hesitated. A lawsuit meant exposing their lives to scrutiny, reliving their pain in public. But Ethan's hand found his, grounding him. We're not just fighting for me, Marcus said softly. It's for every couple they've hurt. Ethan nodded, his voice thick. Let's do it. Sarah spent weeks building the case, digging into Pinnacle's records. She found dozens of similar denials couples, mostly queer, left to drown in medical debt. One story hit hard, a lesbian couple in Ohio. One partner now bankrupt after losing her wife to breast cancer. Sarah's team worked late, fueled by coffee and fury, piecing together a damning narrative. Meanwhile, Marcus's health wavered. Some days, he painted, his brush trembling but defiant, creating vibrant abstracts that hid his pain. Ethan framed each one, hanging them in their living room as a reminder of what they were fighting for. But the stress was relentless. Ethan's boss cut his hours, citing scheduling issues. But Ethan suspected it was because he'd overheard co-workers whispering about the gay guy's lawsuit. One night, Marcus found Ethan staring at a pile of bills. His face crumpled. We can't lose each other, Marcus whispered, pulling him close. Not to them. Not to anyone. Ethan buried his face in Marcus's shoulder, their love a shield against the world. The lawsuit hit the news like a thunderclap. Atlanta couple takes on insurance giant in landmark case. The headline screamed. Sarah had tipped off a local reporter. And soon, Ethan and Marcus were on TV, their faces plastered across screens. Supporters rallied activists, LGBTQ groups, even strangers moved by their story. But the backlash was brutal. Online, trolls spewed hate. They're just milking the system. Why should we pay for their choices? Ethan tried to shield Marcus from the vitriol, but it seeped in. Marcus, now bald from chemo, read a comment calling him a burden on society and laughed bitterly. A burden. I just want to live. Ethan deleted the apps from Marcus's phone, but the damage was done. Doubt crept not in their love, but in whether the world would ever see them as human. Sarah warned them about the depositions. Pinnacle's lawyers were sharks, digging into every detail of their lives' bank accounts, medical history, even their marriage license. One lawyer, a slick man in a $2,000 suit, sneered at Ethan. You expect us to believe this is about justice and not money. Ethan's fists clenched, but Sarah's glare kept him steady. Answer calmly, she whispered. They want you to snap. Marcus faced worse. During his deposition, Pinnacle's team questioned his lifestyle, implying his illness was somehow his fault. He held his ground, his voice steady. My lifestyle. I love my husband. I teach kids to paint. That's my crime. Sarah squeezed his arm, proud but furious. Outside the courtroom, allies grew. A trans woman named Lila, whose partner had been denied coverage for heart surgery, joined the lawsuit. Then came Javier, a bisexual man whose claim for mental health treatment was rejected. The class action swelled to 47 plaintiffs, each story a shard of the same broken system. Ethan and Marcus became reluctant figureheads, their love a beacon for others. But the strain was relentless. Marcus's chemo sessions left him vomiting for hours, and Ethan's sleepless nights blurred into days. One evening, Ethan found Marcus collapsed in their bathroom, too weak to stand. Panic surged, but Marcus grabbed his hand. I'm still here, he gasped. Don't give up. Ethan carried him to bed, tears streaming, vowing to fight harder. The trial loomed. 6 months after the lawsuit began, Sarah's team had built a fortress of evidence, internal Pinnacle emails admitting they prioritized cost-saving denials. whistleblower testimony from a former adjuster, and statistical proof of bias against queer couples. But Pinnacle fought dirty, hiring PR firms to spin them as the victims, claiming frivolous lawsuits threatened the industry. Ethan and Marcus's lives unraveled. Their landlord, pressured by neighbors who'd seen the news, raised their rent, citing property value concerns. Ethan's co-workers grew distant, and Marcus's school placed him on leave, claiming his situation was a distraction. Friends tried to help. Crowdfunding raised $50,000, but it wasn't enough. The immunotherapy Marcus needed was still out of reach. One night, Ethan snapped. He stormed out, driving aimlessly through Atlanta's neon-lit streets, screaming into the void. He parked by a river, the water black and still, and sobbed. He wasn't enough, not for Marcus, not for the fight. When he returned home, Marcus was awake, his eyes soft but firm. "You don't get to quit on me," he said. "We're in this together." Sarah called the next day with news. A judge had approved the class action status. The trial would start in a month. It was a victory, but it came with a cost. Pinnacle's lawyers demanded Marcus testify in person, despite his health. Sarah fought it, but the judge ruled against them. Ethan exploded. He can barely walk. They're trying to kill him. Marcus, though, was resolute. "I'll do it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "They need to see me. See us." Ethan wanted to argue, but saw the fire in Marcus's eyes, the same fire that had drawn him in years ago. He nodded, swallowing his fear. Sarah prepped Marcus relentlessly, knowing Pinnacle would exploit his weakness. She also rallied the plaintiffs, organizing a press conference outside the courthouse. Ethan and Marcus stood front and center, flanked by Lila, Javier, and others. Cameras flashed as Marcus spoke, his voice trembling but clear. "This isn't just about me. It's about everyone who's been told their life doesn't matter." The crowd erupted, but Ethan saw Marcus sway, his strength fading. He caught him before he fell, whispering, "I've got you." The world needed to see their fight, but Ethan only cared about keeping Marcus alive. The Atlanta courthouse was a monolith of stone and glass, its halls echoing with history. Inside, the trial began, a clash of ideals masquerading as legalese. Sarah, in a Navy suit, faced Pinnacle's army of lawyers, led by Gregory Holt, a silver-haired veteran known for crushing opponents. The gallery was packed. Plaintiffs, activists, reporters, and a few of Pinnacle's supporters, their faces smug. Marcus took the stand on day 3, his frame frail but his spirit unbroken. He wore a suit Ethan had ironed that morning, the sleeves slightly too long. Holt grilled him, twisting every word. "Mr. Jackson, isn't it true you failed to disclose pre-existing conditions?" Marcus's eyes narrowed. "I disclosed everything. You just don't want to pay." Sarah's turn came, and she was surgical. She walked Marcus through his diagnosis, his love for Ethan, their life together. "Why do you keep fighting?" she asked. Marcus looked at Ethan in the gallery, his voice steady. "Because love doesn't give up, and neither do we." Ethan's heart swelled, but fear gnawed at him. Marcus was burning out, each day in court stealing what little strength he had. Ethan took the stand next, his voice raw as he recounted Pinnacle's betrayal. Holt tried to rattle him, questioning their marriage's validity. Ethan leaned forward, his eyes blazing. "We're more married than you'll ever understand." The plaintiff's stories followed, each one a gut punch. Lila spoke of losing her partner. Javier broke down, recalling his suicide attempt after Pinnacle's denial. Sarah's evidence was airtight: mails, data, testimonies, but Holt spun a narrative of personal responsibility, claiming the plaintiffs were gaming the system. The jury, a mix of ages and backgrounds, was unreadable. Outside, protests grew. Supporters chanted Marcus and Ethan's names. But counter-protesters waved signs, "Protect our premiums." Ethan shielded Marcus from the chaos. But the hate seeped in. One night, someone spray-painted "Fags Die" on their car. Ethan scrubbed it off at dawn, his hands shaking, refusing to let Marcus see. Sarah kept them focused. "The jury's listening," she said. "Your love? Your pain, it's breaking through." But Ethan saw the toll on Marcus. His skin ashen, his steps unsteady. The trial was their hope, but it was also killing him. Week 3 of the trial brought a bombshell. A Pinnacle whistleblower, a shy data analyst named Claire, took the stand. She'd smuggled out internal memos proving Pinnacle CEO had ordered aggressive claim denials to boost profits, targeting high-risk demographics, code for queer and minority patients. The courtroom gasped. Holt objected, but the judge allowed it. Sarah pounced, displaying the memos on a screen. The jury's faces hardened, some shaking their heads. Ethan gripped Marcus's hand, hope flickering. But Pinnacle fought back, leaking a smear campaign against Claire, calling her disgruntled. Online, bots amplified the narrative, drowning out the truth. Marcus's health plummeted. He collapsed after a court session, rushed to the ER with a fever spiking at 104. Ethan stayed by his side, whispering promises of better days. The doctor warned that without immunotherapy soon, Marcus's chances were slim. Ethan begged Sarah to speed things up, but she shook her head. "We're close, but we need the jury's verdict." Community support surged. A local church, led by a queer pastor, organized a vigil outside the hospital. Strangers sent letters, some with small donations, others with stories of their own insurance battles. One letter, from a teen in rural Georgia. "Read, you're showing me I can be brave." Marcus cried reading it, his resolve hardening. Sarah shifted strategy, calling expert witnesses to debunk Pinnacle's experimental claim. A renowned oncologist testified that Marcus's treatment was standard in Europe, only labeled experimental in the U.S. to dodge costs. The jury leaned in, taking notes. Ethan dared to hope, but Marcus's cough grew worse. Each rasp a countdown. One night, alone in their apartment, Ethan broke. "I can't lose you," he sobbed, clutching Marcus. Marcus, too weak to sit up, whispered, "You won't. Even if I'm gone, you carry me." Ethan shook his head, refusing to accept it. Their love had survived hate, poverty, and betrayal. It had to survive this. The trial's final days were a crucible. Sarah's closing argument was a masterpiece, weaving the plaintiff's stories into a call for justice. Pinnacle didn't just deny claims, they denied lives, she said, her voice trembling with controlled fury. "Marcus and Ethan, Lila, Javier, the not numbers. They're people, and they deserve better." Holt's closing was cold, clinical, painting Pinnacle as a victim of entitled plaintiffs. Ethan wanted to scream, but Marcus's hand on his kept him grounded. The jury deliberated for 3 agonizing days. Ethan and Marcus waited in their apartment, surrounded by Marcus's paintings, each one a piece of their shared dream. On the 3rd day, Sarah called. "It's time." In the courtroom, the air was thick with tension. The foreperson stood, her voice steady. "We find in favor of the plaintiffs." The room erupted cheers, sobs, gasps. Pinnacle was ordered to pay $50 million in damages and cover Marcus's treatment immediately. More crucially, the judge mandated a federal review of their practices. Ethan pulled Marcus into his arms, tears streaming. Marcus, frail but smiling, whispered, "We did it." Sarah hugged them both, her eyes wet. "You changed everything," she said. The victory was bittersweet. Marcus's health was still fragile, and the money wouldn't erase their scars. But it was a start. Outside, supporters mobbed them, cameras flashing. A reporter asked Marcus how he felt. He looked at Ethan, his voice soft but clear. "I feel seen. For the first time, I feel like we matter." Ethan kissed his forehead, the world fading away. They'd won not just for themselves, but for every couple who'd been abandoned. Marcus started immunotherapy a week later, funded by Pinnacle's payout. The treatment was grueling, but hope fueled him. Ethan took leave from work, refusing to leave his side. They moved to a small house outside Atlanta, bought with part of the settlement. Its walls soon covered with Marcus's new paintings, bright, bold, alive. The lawsuit's ripple effects were seismic. Pinnacle's stock plummeted, and the Federal Review exposed widespread fraud, forcing reforms across the industry. Other insurers, fearing similar suits, began approving claims they'd once denied. Lila's partner's case was reopened. Javier got the therapy he needed. The class action's 47 plaintiffs became a symbol of resistance, their stories inspiring laws to protect against discriminatory denials. Marcus and Ethan's life wasn't perfect. Hate mail still came, and Marcus's recovery was slow, marked by setbacks. But they found joy in small moments, cooking together, watching sunsets, planning a vow renewal. One evening, Marcus unveiled a new painting, two hands clasped against a stormy sky, a single star shining above. "That's us," he said, smiling at Ethan. "We made it through." Sarah stayed in touch, her firm now flooded with cases inspired by their win. She called them her heroes. But Ethan and Marcus just laughed. "We're just two guys who love each other," Ethan said. But that love had sparked a movement, proving that even the smallest voices, united, could topple giants. Years later, at a Pride event, a young couple approached them, eyes wide. "You're Marcus and Ethan, right? Your story gave us hope." Marcus, now healthier, his hair growing back, squeezed Ethan's hand. "Keep fighting," he told them. "Love always wins." And it did. Their fight, born from pain, had carved a path for others. They weren't just survivors, they were changemakers. Their love a testament to what courage could achieve.